We're going to do some reverse watercolor. The point of reverse watercolor is you are not really painting with an intention, and you're doing your background first instead of doing the main design or drawing. And it's done intuitively, really. You pick colors, you experiment, you can play around with different textures. So, things like the bubbles and stuff. So I had played around with the bubbles last night with acrylic, and I've been testing it to show you the results. Trying to change up the paint medium a bit. I'm going to use some black watercolor and try the bubbles on top of one of these, but I'm going to go through making three of them. This time I'm just going to use brushes, but I encourage you to use anything that's around. Even if you have a stencil, I have a brush, I have a straw here, any kind of things you can find around the house. I really like these makeup brush sponges. You can soak them, give the actual circle effect, um, triangles, square. It really kind of works out. You can mix some other mediums, pour them on top. Salt dries out. With this one, I'm going to try something really different because I made some texture paste and paint recently. Um, Thanks to one of our classmates there, Anastasia. And it was an interesting turnout, but I thought, why not try the baby powder on top of the painting, on one of the reverse paintings? So we're going to try that today. I'm going to get set up here and just have things at random that I can pull and have a variety of brush sizes. And if you want to use your fingers, use your fingers. Um, you know, if you want to use mixing cups or trees for your colors, and you can use paper cutouts with lemon paper. Stencil, it's endless here. But first we're going to start with a wet on wet technique and some other bowls for mixing waters and stuff. But a straw for, place to blow the paint around. So first things first, I'm going to start with a wet on wet technique. So I need some water here. Use my big brush. Just get a wet surface. With this, it's more like tie-dyeing effect, inking with watercolor. If you want to mix something that's a little bit thicker, tempera paints are not bad. They also mix with the water. They broke down water soluble. So now that I have that, I'm going to start mixing some color. Put some leftover water in here. And then more from here. So then I use this for my mixing and this for my cleaning. I try not to waste any. Also, I like these dishes too for when I use the sponges. They fit in there quite nicely. We're into this one's a little bit different, obviously. I use the big pan for that. This is just something I picked up at the dollar store. It had like little white cups in it for mixing paints, and just in the child section, and it's one of the handiest dandiest things I've ever purchased. So, yeah, pick one. I'm gonna go for something a little bit bigger, just I want to cover space. Yeah, my palette, as you can see, is pretty well used. I do refill it when I need to until these colors are done. I have other palettes as well. I have one that I made up myself. I don't know where I put that right now. Oh, hang on. I really don't know. Okay, so then, I'm gonna start with colors. What colors do I want to use? I don't actually think I'm gonna put some purple here. Now, when it's wet on wet, you noticed it travels. So I can literally flick it and it will spread. When it's dry on the surface, it doesn't travel as much. It's kind of dry there. That's why I did that. If your surface does re-dry, just take your paintbrush, go over it with water, and go back, fill up your water there, get your paint going, watch it dip, it spreads. Dip. Ooh, that's a runner. And you can just have fun. This is already spread out. It looks quite amazing. It gives that like tie-dye effect. Um, so I'm just gonna play around here. The first one here, I'll do step by step. And then when I do something different, the painting for experiment, I'll step back on here. It's not so long. If I can, I'll try to speed up some of the experiments. So, actually, I'll just talk about it now so that I can, speed it up. So I'm going to do pretty much this whole background purple, not purple. I'm thinking purple, red, maybe some black in there. That's what I'm feeling for color today. Which is, not normal, my normal colors. I usually like brighter colors, but it's snowing outside today. It's teasing because spring, daylight savings is this weekend. It's just kind of like, ah, ah. Yeah, I'm already out of my water and my tray for my purple. So I'm gonna go over this way. Some lighter purple now. This on top. So there's no rhyme or reason for what I'm doing here. I'm just mixing colors that I like and adding them in, filling in the spots. It's almost like intuitively painting. And that's kind of what reverse is all about. Sometimes I make reverses and I don't even want to put a main character on it because I just love the texture on itself. I recently made one that was playing around and layering it. I just like the effect that came out of it, so I'm gonna make it into a book, like a book cover. And I just enjoy it so much, and I don't want to destroy the print. I just really like it. It's really pretty. I know what this is. And, oh, I love this. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. It's red and purple. Nice. And I'm just mixing it up. Mixing it up. Mixing it up. Got real no texture to it yet. Just like the purple, there's two shades of red I have here. If I didn't have the two shades, I would simply mix the colors on the side of two different shades of red by adding, maybe a pink, a white to it, like making it lighter, or maybe a blue to making it darker, um, something along those lines. So see, this was just a little bit dark. Follow my lines here. Liking that, liking that, liking that. I'm truly sorry if you can hear my neighbors in the background. one of the reasons why I speed up my videos and I will audit sound because nobody needs to hear that nonsense. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to this purple for a bit. There's no real reason to what I'm doing here. It's just kind of going with the flow to see how it turns out. If it doesn't work out, I can just take another color, put it over, or cut it up, or you can always do something with your work. Or maybe put it away and look at it again in a little while, because you might change your mind. This is ever changing as it is. Okay, now I'm going to try something different. I'm going to put some water on top of it. Blur that much more. Be prepared, it's going to run. As you can see, it's running already. It's going to mind of its own. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to put some baby powder on top of it. Because I used this recently. Tried to keep it not so dusty and in the air as it does. I just wanted to see what kind of textures would be left from baby powder. Oh, very curious on that. It's kind of solidified it. It's weird. Um, you let that dry and see what happens from there. We'll come back to that. For the next one, I'll start and I'll do a dry technique to start. I'm going to put this to the side, let it dry, and we'll come back to it. With this technique, we're going to do it wet on dry, which just means there's a dry surface in the background, and we're using wet medium on a dry surface. Now, as you're going to see, it doesn't spread as much. It doesn't give that kind of inky effect when it's on a dry surface. There's actually more control over your lines. Everybody has a different preference when they're doing their works. I'm just putting paint on paper, whatever feels right for me, whatever colors. Then I'm going to experiment afterwards. Actually, this time I'll use some of the sponges. How's that? And we'll use salt. So I'm going to give 3 examples. Over here. Oh, perfect. Filling up the space with color. It's funny, sometimes the ones that I rush through, I'm just feeling, I find turn out to be some of the best backgrounds. Oh, look at that, my dish, that's a circle. It was leaving a pattern there, do you see? You can see that. Here around there you can. That's pretty neat. Heroes. Huh? Baby powder still lingering here. Um, and then the next one we're gonna use, I'm gonna leave that green paint in there. I'm gonna do something crazy. Mix the purple wash paint. So I'm gonna go over here. Hit this. I'm gonna get my brush. This beautiful deep blue. So yeah, just paint it on top. If you want, you can use the big dish. If you have any like tube paints and you want to squirt it in, you can use it that way. I'm just trying to stick with the palette today. And then what? So that's just me dropping it. That's just a drop. But now it's wet on wet, so it's going to blur. Push on the side. See what happens. Ooh, very nice. It's a little bit of a drier effect. This one's wet. Oh, can't see nothing there at all. Well, there's a rim. I'll bring this to the camera. See how it bled more? And that's the circles from the bottom of the cup. So I guess I'm going to continue to stick with this circle theme. But what I am going to do is add a lighter blue first to fill in the background to get it more of that wet surface. And then maybe I can play with it a little bit more. Oh, I love splash. Splash, splash. If you're doing watercolors, I suggest you do swatches. Swatches are little small squares of your paint. So just like when you paint a room, you go and you pick out a paint for your room and you look at the different colors. Same idea, the swatches. But you have it as a reference point to see what that color looks like. And you can do different things with it as well, like a darker, lighter, and then you have those. You can also play with textures that way, and have swatches that way for reference. They're always handy to have around, and it's kind of like its own art in itself. Uh, like your secret bag of tools, you know, all your little sketching and painting techniques or textures or something you've discovered or a technique that you really like and you repeat and you hold that down and you go to learn something new, but you go back to your swatch book and you see it and you're like, oh, hey, I remember that. I want to try that technique again. I have found that has been such a valuable resource for me as an artist. Very much so. Okay, now that I've got that done, I like how it's all swirled and everything. I'm going to come back to my brush. And I think I am going to use the pink and put in the water here. And what I do, if I don't have a tube of paint, I mix the paint and change the color of the water and make it as dark as I can. That way, it's like I have use of a watered down color for my sponge prints on my paper. I usually do way more than this. As you can see, it's kind of coming out the corner there. Boop, 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 drop it in. Oh, got some other colors in there. That's okay. And now that it's kind of dark, my paintbrush aside, we'll pick this up. And obviously capture all the water I can, and I'm going to go bloop, start throwing it down. Squish, squish, squish. I don't know if you can see that. I can't really pick it up because you know, squeeze it. This is pretty wet. But I'm noticing that if I go around the edge and I pick it up, it's giving me kind of the edge I want. Oh, these circle patterns in here. I like that. Push it to my limits here. We're gonna redo this and see what happens. How is gonna pick up the paint. Ooh, picking it up is also helping too. I just go over the wet spot and whoop, it reveals another circle. That's cool. Oh, see what I'm doing here? Because when it's wet, the thing about watercolors, it's ever changing. As soon as you put a different texture on it, it changes, it changes, it changes. Ooh, you see my edges are quite down here. Just get some color on the edges here. There we go. Now with this one, oh, that's a perfect little circle there. I'm actually gonna come back with the bottom and the top here and see if I can do something like that. Because that was pretty cool. Oh, look at that. Kind of like a different size circle. So that's unexpected. I didn't even expect to use the bottom of this. And I can. That is so neat. I'm gonna flip it around. See what happens. I've done this before. That's worked out pretty cool. Boop, boop. Drag it in there. Something new, like I said, something new. That's one good line there. Yeah. Oh, okay. Ooh, see, around that for a little while. Let's see. And this one, I'm gonna put a little bit of salt on it. Different places. As you can see, it changes the textures right away. Wherever the wet paint was. And then I added wax paper. Sometimes I use. I like that. So I think I'll use some wax paper on this one. You see that, the paint underneath, the leaves and stuff. Oh, it's not working as the same, I see. Oh, that's interesting. what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my paintbrush and I'll throw some water down underneath. That's giving me kind of the effects that I do know that will come from the wax paper, but I've never done it with salt before. So that's kind of a new factor for you. No, still doing something different. It's actually giving me more dots. But I'm gonna go with it. So what I do is I can help out. So what I do is I take the wax paper and I fold it underneath. Try to give it a flat surface. And look it over. If you need to put something hard on the back, like a book or whatever, and let it dry for about an hour, and then you can lift it, and you should have the effect. But we'll come back to this one as well. Let me get the third one set up. All right, I have prepped the paper and I got it wet. I a quick wash to it. You can also do that and let it dry, so that it's able to absorb paper better. I'm going to use the rest of this blue that I had. It's going to get crazy with the cheese whiz. Yeah. That's why I have a tray. I clean up afterwards, so watercolor can get messy. That in itself could be a reverse. Kind of looks like a sky. I'm gonna throw a little bit of marker in there. Oh no, I can't do that. I meant to do that first. My apologies, because I was gonna like bleed the ink. What I do is maybe dry the surface. Let's see. Paper towel gives its own look. I'm gonna keep that to the side. And new colors. This was a two paint. Oh, oh wow, really tricky on me. This could be it's just random again. Just random. I like the Bob Ross there, happy little accidents. It's the same thing. Get into the orange now. One thing I love about watercolor is the splatting. It's so much fun. Disappointed I couldn't get that yellow going. I'm jumping here. I don't know. What? It's a little bit of a deeper yellow because that's orange mixed in there. Sorry about the noise. Know that I want yellow in certain places. I don't know why. I just, now, just gonna spot on top. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. Use that again. We'll give it a new effect. Now back to, oh, I have a marker here. I might have to use watercolor markers, so that was my mistake here. I didn't, the watercolor is ready. Sorry about that. Oh, yeah, I'm not even sure where they are right now, so I'm just gonna stick with this. There's a dry spot here, so we'll just go with that. Some red there, put some red over here in the dry spot. Right over here, here, because it's great. Now it's drying up. It's gonna I'll scribble in there. Actually, it might work out better if it's permanent markers. Let's see here, I'll show you. Okay. Oh, that's a nice dry spot. All right. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of that. This marker is pretty much on its way out. Add effect. Let's see what comes out on there. I'll just say everything. Just scribbles. Scribbles, scribbles, scribbles. Something I put together. Now I'm gonna try some rubbing alcohol. Now when I use this, I try to find an eyedropper. Oop. And my eyedropper. But there we go. Eyedropper. I'm gonna put a rubbing alcohol on. Boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. Now with that, get another paintbrush. See what happens with it. Oh yeah. There's some leakage that occurs. I think it's really neat. Oh, try not on there. Well, that looks neat. I don't know what it is. It like softens up the edges and kind of transfers the ink a little bit. I'm just making it silly. Having some fun. Ooh. The rubbing alcohol effects. Same thing as well. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. Okay. Oh, for fun. It's because I've done this before. But I let it dry a little bit and then I add bleach. But I use a different brush. Bleach has its own effect. It sometimes fades, the markers. It gives it a completely different look. It's already, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, the camera. See? It's already kind of softened the lines a bit. The bleach on top of it kind of fades it a little bit. But when it dries, you'll see like the faint traces of it leaking. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's already starting to leak a bit. It gives it like a glow. And this will dry around it just because the paper is wet. Now to finish this one off, I'm going to do something with a string. And I'm going to dip it in on, oh, and also stencil. I forgot how much stencil. So a stencil can be a paper or a piece of plastic. And going. And I want to do something completely different. You do the stencil is you just go around it. So you want to mix colored around the edges. Let's grab another color. Mix it up. You have a whole new look to it, a whole new image. Repeat that if you like. Flip it over, grass, a little bit of extra. I mean, sky is the limit. And afterwards, save these, turn them to something else too. So, I invite you to try things, This is a dryer sheet. It's just something I grabbed. Oh, maybe there'll be a texture out of it. So let's grab this, let's try this out. There's a texture. Does the texture come through? No, not really. If I print it like that. Oh, a little bit. That one's got more of a texture to it. So I rubbed it, and as you can see, there's kind of a texture to it. That's interesting. See? That is really neat. It didn't come out as well at first. It looked kind of like, yucky or whatever. But see here, if I can. Oh, that's kind of neat. See that I tried something. I kind of like the result. So I'll play with it. See if I can get half of it. And what I find about when you experiment, if you don't like it, I could just paint right over it. I don't like that. I'm gonna do a different texture. I'm gonna do something different. Or you can just do, turn this into a painting. Um, Next thing I wanted to try was string. I'm gonna dip it my water first. And with this, I tend to like using darker colors when I do it. It just seems like it gets a better look to it. So just like, if you dip it into any kind of other paint, put it all painted out. And you just turn it on, make some weird lines, or hit it, hit your paper. Right, right. I guess you can drown it out a bit. or different lines. Oh, or you can literally put this thing on there and go boop, 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 boop. You have something in between. And I'll show you these things close. Patterns. Here's the patterns. And then the string lines. That's the one with the string in the middle. So I'm very much encouraging you to try things around your hips. Do new things. The last thing I'll show you is blowing the paint. This again. Get some paint out here. I guess we'll stick with the green. They get really soppy. You need it watery. Down here. Here. Cool. Mixing. Now, all you have to do is you have to take a cup of water and add it to the middle. Maybe even 2 or 3 of them until it gets kind of runny again. A watery effect. I want this one to be really runny. You can always add more water to straw. I don't know if you remember this. We've done this in grade school before, but you can also do this with a hair dryer. It goes kind of quicker, but it also goes like really all over the place. I like the straws that have the turns. You can't find straws anymore. If you can, you're really super duper lucky. But I've hung onto my straws for a while. Just for art purposes. I mean, they're so handy. But that's kind of how that turns out. And if you add more water to your ends, you can continue them. You can get to be satisfied with your end result. And even then, remember to save this. So you think of that. The lines like the darker image. You can see that texture in the lines. So play, play, play. Play as much as you can. Because when you play, you create. When you're creating, There's always new discoveries. Now we'll check back on all these other than dried. Unfortunately, some of the processes that I did not get recorded. And the funny thing is I was halfway through this lesson and then I realized that I did not hit the option to record. So maybe that's what I've done. It's been a very interesting week, interesting month. So I appreciate all your patience, everybody. But let's go through some of these results and get to it. So this was a reverse watercolor I did. And then I was doing some neurographical lines and I did some bubbles. And then I took some gold tempera paint and put it on top. I really liked the effect it gave. What do you think? And you remember this face, I had some leftover gold. So as you're looking at it, you might be able to see it, but if when I tilt it, the gold gave it a different texture and look to the side. And I just took whatever's on that, what was left on my sheet from the gold, and place it on top of here. I actually did with a few pictures. It kind of just gives it a little signature, you know? Next one was the bubbles. You remember the bubbles? I brought this into play because I actually did a recording doing the black bubbles for the neurographical art, doing the reverse watercolor with marker, crayons, or pencil, or even with paint, and then doing the watercolor on top. And then also with one of the ones that we have done. But I'm going to show you this all over again. So this is the one with the blue. And on the other side, I'm obsessed with this one right here. I keep seeing an image in it, and I'm going to be doing a contour on this. I just honestly haven't had time. But for me personally, I see this as legs, and I see this as a beautiful lady, and with all kinds of like roots and thoughts coming from her. Um, and this was the baby powder result. Now, at first, it looked like hard and dry and cracked, and I had to actually like peel, like scratch it away. Like I left a little bit on here just to kind of show you. Like I had to scratch it away. It was really messy. If you do this, I suggest you clean it off outside and away from people because it'll make a big dust cloud. Um, even when it coagulated, but it did get like this really cool effect. It softened the colors completely. But then it left like a really cool imprint from in between. Almost like it's like textured. It's really interesting. It makes me curious. It's a little bit finer than cornstarch. Cornstarch gives a really cool effect. Um, yeah, it's pretty neat when you use cornstarch as well. That's that. And then the next one, that was the blue with the salt and the wax paper. The wax paper kind of gave it the lines, just a little bit. As you can see where the salt is, it kind of lifted it, gave it space. Some places it just stayed. This also with salt, it sticks and you gotta crunch it off afterwards to get your result. This is kind of like some of the texture that you get with the salt. It's interesting, I think, personally, but you should wait till the salt dries before you remove it though. But I loved how that circle from the dish like really stayed. And then the circles from the sponge, you can still kind of see the outlines. I think I'll probably continue along with this and do more to it whenever it feels inspired. Maybe put a couple doodles on here. Now this was the acrylic um, bubbles. I did this one with acrylic, and then the next ones I'll show you that I did with the watercolor. Um, as you can see, it's like a little bit, it's a lot thicker. It created these dark areas, very, minimal bubbles, but the bubbles are very stand out. As you can see, the watercolor in the background, that was the watercolor bubbles. Um, actually, that was the last of the water bubble color, like color of the water. And I put it on a piece of paper. I was blowing bubbles like all over the place, seeing what happened, and then kind of like dragging it around to see if I had a little bit of control of it. And then over here, I took the straw and blew it down and blew it over this way. It's pretty neat. But this one here, if you remember, I should just put her out. Recognize the green and the heart. The heart is still there, and then the green up. But that's what I did with that reverse watercolor, and that's and they're graphical in itself. I mean, I could take a black marker and go through it, but I really just love it like this. So another neural art idea for you. And this was the black one. I thought I'd come in afterwards and do some watercoloring, maybe some colors, dab in on it. Just ideas, you know? This one I played around with, and this was watercolor bubbles, which was more concentrated, and I tried to do like smaller bubbles with her. As you can see on her nose. So this is something I had to continue to work on. I don't know if you remember, but this was the tempera paint stick that I used. And I did like a nerd graphical top on her, kind of a messy one, because I knew I was going to put the bubbles on top. And I'm going to go through and solid up her lines for her face and just continue to play with it. But like, I kind of really like it. It looks neat. But I still want to bring out some more color, make it pop. Okay, the next one here is da-da-da-da. You remember this guy? He was the example for the neural doodles and the contour. I put watercolor on him, some wax paper, and you get these kind of pictures, these double linings. I kind of gives it like almost a marble effect in its own way. Another way to marble is using shaving cream and water. You put the shaving cream on, and you can put the paint on top of that, or you can put the paint on and then shaving cream. Experiment both ways because it kind of gives a different kind of a look. Now this one I was showing because I want to show you like when you're doing a doodle on a reverse watercolor and you don't like what happens, but you have kind of a frame in mind. Because I had done a contour and I really didn't like it. So what I'm going to do is I paint the face black, and then when I'm ready, I will go in with a white chalk or white paint or gesso, and I'll just nicely put in a face and then continue the doodle around. But that's just my choice on this one.